So it's basically you're like Dean Martin in a Dean Martin variety show, except you're not drinking or smoking or beginning to slur your speech and singing "It's a Marshmallow World."
Yeah, pretty much.
Volare, whoa.
But ladies and gentlemen, I am absolutely honored that you've chosen to be with us tonight on Christmas night. Now, I know a lot of you have had this... Yes. Oh, hey, it's Callie, my wonderful stage manager. How about a round of applause? What's up?
Jeff, it's not Christmas Day. It's December 18th.
What?
The Saturday before Christmas?
Okay, well, I'm honored that you've chosen to be with us on a random Saturday in December, then. Now, look, we have an absolute wonderful evening planned for you tonight, full of holiday one-acts and musical numbers and readings. And, we've all been through a lot in the last 2 years. And what better way to celebrate the holiday season than here, together at DCP Theater, celebrating it together. Now, we've been rehearsing a lot of long hours for tonight, and I know it's going to go off without a hitch, so...
Hey, Jeff, do you know where my costumes are for the one act later? I think John hid them because he's nervous about performing. He doesn't want us to go on.
Wesley, we're live. Anyway, hey, Mike, we about ready to roll?
Ready when you are.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get things started with my friends, the Seibel family, performing a classic scene from one of the most famous Christmas movies of all time.
Santa Claus had come.
Wow, a drum! That's mine! Ooh, look here, that's mine! Ooh, what's this? It's hard! Wow, a fire truck! Oh boy, that's mine! Hey! Wow, does this race?
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, you two.
Merry Christmas.
Now, Randy, wait for Christmas to
I'm
start.
gonna play Santa!
Randy, you played Santa last year. He played Santa last year, didn't he? Ralphie, you do it this time.
Who should I start with?
Give Randy a present, and I think I see Aunt Clara's gift to you right over there. She always sends you the most wonderful presents.
Give me mine, Ralphie, come on!
We plunged into the cornucopia, quivering with desire and the ecstasy of unbridled avarice.
Didn't I get a tie this year?
Wow, whoopee, a Zeppelin!
A can of Simon Eyes.
Ralphie, what did Aunt Clara give you? Show everybody.
I don't want to.
Ralphie, show everybody what Aunt Clara gave you.
Aunt Clara had for years labored under the delusion that I was not only perpetually 4 years old, but also a girl.
She always sends you the most wonderful presents. Oh, isn't that sweet? Ralph, go on upstairs and try it on.
I don't want to.
Ralph, go upstairs and try on that present right now. She went through all that trouble to make it. Now go on. While Ralphie's changing, I'll go ahead and play Santa Claus. Let me see what I can find. Randy, this is for you, honey. And, this is for Daddy. Here, from me to you.
Thanks a lot. Oh, what could it be? Only one way to find out. Oh, it's a blue ball. Oh, it's a bowling ball. Thank you, darling. Thank you.
Do you like it?
Yes, very much. Yes.
Ralphie, we're waiting.
Oh, come on, Mom.
Right now.
My feet began to sweat as those two pink fluffy bunnies stared sappily up at me with their blue button eyes.
Come down here so I can see you better.
I just hope Flick wouldn't spot, as word of this humiliation could make life at Warren G. Harding School a veritable hell.
Oh, isn't that cute? That is the most precious thing I've seen in my life.
Shut up, Randy.
He looks like a deranged Easter bunny.
He does
He
not.
does too, some kind of pink nightmare. Are you happy wearing that? Do you want to take it off? Tell the kid to take it off.
Okay, only wear it when Aunt Clara comes to visit. Go on, take it off.
Take it off! God, would you look at this mess? Who's going to clean up all the papers?
Not me.
Randy did it last year.
He can do it again.
This wine's not bad. It's not good either. You want a sip?
Yeah.
No, you don't. Did you have a nice Christmas?
Yeah, pretty nice.
Did you get everything you wanted?
Yeah, almost.
Almost, huh? Well, that's life. Better luck next Christmas.
Yep.
Hey, what's that over there? By the desk.
Where?
Over there, behind the desk, against the wall. Go check it out. Go on.
What did we put over there?
Maybe Santa got him something.
Wow! Oh, it was beautiful. I could hardly wait to try it out.
Do you know how to load it?
Yeah.
Careful. They'll run all over. Close it up.
Can I try it out, Ma? Can I?
Sure.
Okay, but outside. Oh, those things still make me nervous. Put on your galoshes and your coat. It's cold out.
I had one of those when I was 8 years old.
What if he hurts himself? Ralphie, your coat! And don't shoot any birds or animals!
Except for Mr. Bumpus's hounds.
Classic. Just classic. And what's even best is I didn't even have to convince Christian to put on the pink bunny outfit. I think he actually thinks he wants to keep it.
Now, what would Christmas time be without Christmas music? Actually, the biggest argument amongst most people is, well, when is it too early to start listening to it? After Thanksgiving, after Halloween, could be...
Well, the obvious answer is all year long, for several reasons. It's joyful and puts a smile on your face anytime you hear it. Everyone knows the words. It comes in all genres. Even the remixes are good. No matter what time of year it is, it always makes you think of the best time of year. It's always catchy. It reminds you of being a kid again. There's a song for every mood. And plus, Santa would want you to listen all year long.
Or all year long. It warms our hearts and it touches our souls. Singing a beautiful traditional carol, please welcome Ray and Nancy Thompson.
that brought us tonight to our Savior. Shines so bright to the knowing light of the stable. Real close to the child so dear, cast aside your fear and be thankful.
So many poems and short stories can so easily be turned into TV shows or movies. You know, even the shortest story, for instance, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, was turned into a 2-hour feature-length film. Now, I wanted to incorporate The Gift of the Magi into tonight's performance, and I read a lot of one-acts, but I really couldn't find one that did it justice. So I decided for you to hear it the way it was originally meant to be heard, as a short story. Please welcome to the stage Jan Thompson to help narrate for our actors the original short story, The Gift of the Magi by O. Henry.
$1.87. That was all. And 60 cents of it was in pennies. Pennies saved 1 and 2 at a time by bulldozing the grocer and the vegetable man and the butcher until one's cheeks burned with the silent imputation of parsimony that such close dealing implied. 3 times Della counted it, $1.87. And the next day would be Christmas. There was clearly nothing left to do but flop down on the shabby little couch and howl, so Della did it, which instigates the moral reflection that life is made up of sobs, sniffles, and smiles, with sniffles predominating. While the mistress of the home is gradually subsiding from the first stage to the second, take a look at the home. A furnished flat at $8 per week. It did not exactly beggar description, but it certainly had that word on the lookout for the Mendicancy squad. In the vestibule below, there was a letter box into which no letter would go, and an electric button from which no mortal finger could coax a ring. Also appertaining thereunto was a card bearing the name Mr. James Dillingham Young. The Dillingham had been flung to the breeze during a former period of prosperity when its possessor was being paid $30 per week. Now, when the income was shrunk to $20, the letters of Dillingham looked blurred, as though they were thinking seriously of contracting to a modest and unassuming D. But whenever Mr. James Dillingham Young came home and reached his flat above, he was called Jim, and greatly hugged by Mrs. James Dillingham Young, already introduced to you as Della, which is all very good. Della finished her cry and attended to her cheeks with a powder rag. She stood by the window and looked out dully at the gray cat walking a gray fence in a gray backyard. Tomorrow would be Christmas Day, and she had only $1.87 with which to buy Jim a present. She had been saving every penny she could for months, with this result. $20 a week doesn't go far. Expenses had been greater than she had calculated. They always are. Only $1.87 to buy a present for Jim, her Jim. Many a happy hour she had spent planning for something nice for him, something fine and rare and sterling, something just a little bit near to being worthy of the honor of being owned by Jim. There was a pier glass between the windows of the room. Perhaps you have seen a pier glass in an $8 flat. A very thin and agile person may, by observing his reflection in a rapid sequence of longitudinal strips, obtain a fairly accurate description of his looks. Della, being slender, had mastered the art. Suddenly she whirled from the window and stood before the glass. Her eyes were shining brightly, but her face had lost its color within 20 seconds. Rapidly, she pulled down her hair and let it fall to its full length. Now, there were two possessions of the James Dillingham Youngs in which they both took a mighty pride. One was Jim's gold watch that had been his father's and his grandfather's. The other was Della's hair. Had the Queen of Sheba lived in the flat across the air shaft, Della would have let her hair hang out the window someday to dry, just to depreciate Her Majesty's jewels and gifts. Had King Solomon been the janitor, with all his treasures piled up in the basement, Jim would have pulled out his watch every time he passed, just to see him pluck at his beard with envy. So now Della's beautiful hair fell about her, rippling and shining like a cascade of brown waters. It reached below her knee and made itself almost a garment for her. And then she did it up again nervously, quickly. Once she faltered for a minute and stood still, while a tear or two splashed on the worn red carpet. On went her old brown jacket. On went her old brown hat. And with a whirl of skirts, and with the brilliant sparkle still in her eyes, she cluttered out of the door and down the stairs to the street. Where she stopped, the sign read,
Master Sophrony, hair goods of all kinds.
1/8 up Della ran and collected herself, panting. Master, large, too white, chilly, hardly looked the Sophrony.
Will you buy my hair?
I buy hair? Let your hair down. Let's take a look.
Down rippled the brown cascade,
$20.
said Master, lifting the mass with a practiced hand.
Give it to me quick.
Oh, and the next 2 hours tripped by on rosy wings. Forget the hashed metaphor. She was ransacking the stores for Jim's present. She found it at last. It surely had been made for Jim and no one else. There was no other like it in any of the stores, and she had turned all of them inside out. It was a platinum fob chain, simple and chaste in design, properly proclaiming its value by substance alone and not by meretricious ornamentation, as all good things should do. It was even worthy of the watch. As soon as she saw it, she knew that it must be Jim's. It was like him. Quietness and value. The description applied to both. $21 they took from her for it, and she hurried home with the 78 cents. With that chain on his watch, Jim might be properly anxious about the time in any company. Grand as the watch was, he sometimes looked at it on the sly, on account of the old leather strap that he used in place of a chain. When Della reached home, her intoxication gave way a little to prudence and reason. She got out her curling irons and lighted the gas and went to work, repairing the ravages made by generosity added to love, which is always a tremendous task, dear friends, a mammoth task. Within 40 minutes, her head was covered with tiny, close-lying curls that made her feel wonderfully like a truant schoolboy. She looked at her reflection in the mirror, long, carefully, and critically.
If Jim doesn't kill me before he takes a second look at me, he'll say I look like a Coney Island chorus girl. But what could I do? What could I do with $1.87?
At 7 o'clock, the coffee was made, and the frying pan was on the back of the stove, hot and ready to cook the chops. Jim was never late. Della doubled the fob chain in her hand and sat on the corner of the table near the door that he always entered. Then she heard his step on the stair away down on the first flight, and she turned white for just a moment. She had a habit of saying silent little prayers about the simplest everyday things, and now she whispered,
Please, God, make him think I am still pretty.
The door opened, and Jim stepped in and closed it. He looked thin and very serious. Poor fellow, he was only 22, and to be burdened with a family. He needed a new overcoat, and he was without gloves. Jim stepped inside the door, as immovable as a setter at the scent of quail. His eyes were fixed upon Della, and there was an expression in them that she could not read, and it terrified her. It was not anger, nor surprise, nor disapproval, nor horror, nor any of the sentiments that she had been prepared for. He simply stared at her fixedly with that peculiar expression on his face. Della wriggled off the table and went for him.
Jim, darling, don't look at me that way. I had my hair cut off and sold it because, well, I couldn't have lived through Christmas without getting you a present. It'll grow back. You won't mind, will you? I just had to do it. My hair grows awfully fast. Say Merry Christmas, Jim, and let's be happy. You don't know what a beautiful, nice gift I've got you.
You cut off your hair.
Asked Jim, laboriously, as if he had not arrived at that patent fact yet, even after the hardest mental labor.
Cut it off and sold it. Don't you like me just as well, anyhow? I'm still me without my hair, ain't I?
Jim looked about the room curiously.
You say your hair's gone?
You needn't look for it. It's sold, I tell you, sold and gone too. It's Christmas Eve. Boy, be good to me, for it went for you. Maybe the hairs in my head were numbered, but no one could ever count my love for you. Shall I put the chops on, Jim?
Out of his trance, Jim quickly seemed to wake. He enfolded his Della. For 10 seconds, let us regard with discreet scrutiny some inconsequential object on the other direction. $8 a week or $1 million a year. What is the difference? A mathematician or a wit would give you the wrong answer. The Magi brought valuable gifts, but that was not among them. This dark assertion will be illuminated later on. Jim drew a package from his overcoat pocket and threw it upon the table.
Don't make a mistake, Dell, about me. I don't think there's anything in the way of a haircut or a shave or a shampoo that can make me like my girl any less. But if you unwrap that package, you might understand why you had me going for a while at first.
White fingers and nimble tore at the string and paper. And then, an ecstatic scream of joy. And then, alas, a quick feminine change to hysterical tears and wails, necessitating the immediate employment of all the comforting powers of the lord of the flat. For there lay the combs, a set of combs, side and back, that Della had worshipped for long in a Broadway window. Beautiful combs, pure tortoiseshell, with jeweled rims, just the shade to wear in the beautiful vanished hair. Oh, they were expensive combs, she knew, and her heart had simply craved and yearned over them, without the least hope of possession. And now, they were hers. but the tresses that should have adorned the coveted adornments were gone. But she hugged them to her bosom, and at length she was able to look up with dim eyes and a smile and say,
My hair grows so fast, Jim.
"Oh, oh!" And then Della leaped up like a little singed cat. Jim had not yet seen his beautiful present. She held it out to him eagerly upon her open palm. The dull, precious metal seemed to flash with reflection of her bright and ardent spirit.
Isn't it a dandy, Jim? I hunted all over town to find it. You'll have to look at the time 100 times a day now. Give me your watch. I want to see how it looks on it.
Instead of obeying, Jim tumbled down on the couch and put his hands under the back of his head and smiled.
Dell, let's put our presents away for a while. They're just too nice to use just at present. I sold the watch to get the money to buy your combs. Now I suppose you put the chops on?
The Magi, as you know, were wise men, wonderfully wise men, who brought gifts to the babe in the manger. They invented the art of giving Christmas presents. Being wise, their gifts were no doubt wise ones, possibly bearing the privilege of exchange in case of duplication. And here I have lamely related to you the uneventful chronicle of two foolish children in a flat who must unwisely sacrifice for each other the greatest treasures of their house. But in a last word to the wise of these days, let it be said that of all who give gifts, these two were the wisest. Of all who give and receive gifts, such as they are wisest. Everywhere they are wisest. They are the Magi.
A beautiful story for a magical season. Oh, hey, John, dude, you're supposed to be in the back relaxing so you're not nervous to go on stage later. Actually, they're a great audience so far. No, I am not going to cancel the show and send everyone home. Now, would you go in the back and chill out? Like music, poetry can touch our souls. It allows us to express ourselves through word and verse, and allows others to interpret that into their own emotion. So for tonight, I've chosen 4 poems to help celebrate the winter and holiday season. Reading our first poem, entitled Wintertime by Robert Louis Stevenson, please welcome to the stage, David Williams.
Late lies the wintry sun abed, a frosty, fiery sleepyhead. Blinks but an hour or two, and then a blood-red orange sets again. Before the stars have left the skies, at morning in the dark I rise, and shivering in my nakedness by the cold candle, bathe and dress. Close by the jolly fire I sit to warm my frozen bones a bit, or with reindeer sled explore the colder countries round the door. When to go out, my nurse doth wrap me in my comforter and cap. The cold wind burns my face and blows its frosty pepper up my nose. Black are my steps on silver sod. Thick blows my frosty breath abroad. And tree and house and hill and lake are frosted like a wedding cake.
The beautiful reading. Thank you, David. Oh, hey, Brandon.
Hey, Jeff. Merry Christmas.
My goodness, what are you wearing? I feel like we need to shield our eyes.
It's my ugly Christmas sweater.